I'm sorry, but the medication you ordered is out of stock, and it looks like we won't be getting more anytime soon. In my hands, I hold the document that was signed on the 25th of May of 2022 by the greatest pharmaceutical company in the world, by a group of global elites, including Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Bill Gates, forces hardworking Americans to pay for medications for over 1.2 billion people in 45 different countries, including America's greatest enemies, leaving Americans with no way to access the medication they need to survive. This is the Great Healthcare Reset, and it's going to change the American way of life forever. It's 9:25 a.m. on a Monday. You make this trip to your pharmacy every month, but this time something feels different. You feel a cold fear deep in the pit of your stomach when you hear your pharmacist's words. You ask her if you can get your prescription filled anywhere else. You're more than happy to drive as far as it takes. But she says no. Apparently the shortage isn't just limited to your pharmacy. At this point, your mind begins to race. You look over at the next counter and you see a mother holding the hand of her 9-year-old daughter. She's clearly in distress as she yells at the cashier. "What are you going to do about this?" she pleads. "My daughter needs her insulin to live. You know how dangerous it can be to miss a single dose." This makes you think about your family. You were here to pick up medication for their chronic illnesses too. Seeing that your pharmacy can do nothing to help you, you drive home, quietly wondering what could possibly be going on. What you don't know yet is that this is part of something bigger than you realize. This is the first time the Great Healthcare Reset has personally affected you. But it won't be the last. Once you're home, you inform your family that you had to come back empty-handed. You notice a look of pure panic in their eyes, but you promise them that this is only temporary and that they'll have their medication in no time. The problem is, you don't believe this yourself. When you turn on the news, your heart drops when you see the headline. Your pharmacist was right. This isn't just a small shortage in your area. This is a national issue. Every major news channel is reporting on it. As you flip through channels, you see stories of families desperately begging for life-saving medications. You see doctors pleading to the government to do something, to do anything. But the people in office have practically thrown up their hands in the air. They're saying this is beyond their control, and they're not sure when things will go back to normal. It could be weeks or even months from now. At this point, your fear turns into anger. You realize that if our healthcare system is already on the brink of collapse because of the current drug shortages, it's only going to take one disaster to bring the whole thing down. Whether that's another catastrophic hurricane, an EMP attack from one of our enemies, or an economic crisis. How would your family survive something like this? You wonder if the people sitting in their fancy offices even realize how many people are going to suffer because they can't be bothered to do their job? How many families are going to lose their loved ones in the coming weeks and months? And most of all, you ask yourself, how did we even get here? What could have possibly gone wrong that an entire nation is left without medication to keep them alive? And what can I do right now to keep my family safe and healthy through a shortage that could last anywhere between 3 months or even 3 years? Hi, I'm David Miller. Please hold this startling image in your head for a moment. It's important to know two things. Number one, what you're about to see isn't some sci-fi script. Believe me, I don't take these predictions lightly, and I have no interest in trying to scare you. I'm simply following my research to its logical conclusion. Number two, I'm not some wacko conspiracy theorist that lacks proof. In my hands, I hold the document that was signed on the 25th of May of 2022 by the greatest pharmaceutical company in the world, and backed up by global elites including Bill Gates and Joe Biden. What's inside this document is going to go down as one of the most pivotal moments in U.S. history, because it's going to cause the downfall of the modern healthcare system. This is the Great Healthcare Reset. And I guarantee you, you won't hear about this plan anywhere in the mainstream media. No one is going to warn you about how bad the consequences of this plan will be. No one will tell you you'll be left empty-handed with no access to something as basic as healthcare. No one will tell you you'll have to watch your family suffer in sickness while your hands are tied. The only thing they will tell you after it's all gone south, that this is being done for the greater good of society by a group of global elites that meet every year to decide your future, including Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Bill Gates. This is the Great Healthcare Reset, and it's going to change the American way of life forever. In the next 30 seconds, I'm going to reveal all the nitty-gritty details of this secret plan hatched by the global elites to strip hardworking Americans of their right to medication. I'll show you exactly who's behind this and how they plan to profit from your pain. Today, by discovering this page, you're among a tiny fraction of Americans who have been fortunate enough to be warned. This means you still have time to prepare before the situation I laid out above becomes your reality, before the thoughtless decision of these global elites leaves you and your family struggling to survive without medication. Think about it. You are the only one your family is counting on. You are the one they'll look to for answers if anything goes wrong. I'm talking about when someone in your family comes down with a nasty infection and antibiotics are nowhere to be found. Or when they suddenly can't find drugs that they've been relying on for their chronic illnesses. Or when they suffer from broken bones, burns, or any other emergency situation, and all the hospitals are closed or filled with patients. Do you really want to have to look at your family in the eye and say, "There's nothing we can do. We'll just have to hope the government gets us the supplies we need"? By taking a few simple steps today, you won't have to explain this to your family. Instead, you'll be the person your entire neighborhood looks up to for help. Because in this short presentation, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to prepare for the upcoming healthcare collapse, including the top 3 medications that are already on the brink of disappearing, and scientifically proven alternatives you can use instead. Make no mistake, no one knows that these shortages are a planned reset by global elites. In fact, ask anyone what they think is the cause of the increasing shortages today, and they'll tell you it's just normal supply chain issues, because that's what they want you to believe. It took me and my team months of research to uncover who's really behind all this. And now, the window to prepare yourself is closing fast because the shortages are growing by the day. In fact, they may have already hit your area by the time you see this. I'm going to hand you everything you need to protect yourself. My only request to you is to treat this as an emergency and take action now. Because of the powerful names I'm calling out, I may be forced to take this page down anytime. And when that happens, I'll have no way to help you. So I urge you to keep reading now. Like I said, my name is David Miller at Survivalpedia.com, one of the leading survival websites on the internet. Odds are you don't know about us. Many people don't. Because of the nature of our discussions and our controversial opinions, we try our best to stay under the radar. But if they shut us down for telling the truth, then so be it. Over the years, I've heard it all, that I'm a conspiracy theorist, a tinfoil hat, crazy prepper, you name it. But I learned to shut down the noise because I know our research has helped hundreds of thousands of people across the country. And that's the only thing that really matters. When we published Backyard Liberty and showed people how to prepare for a food crisis, more than 140,000 Americans heeded our calls. Even more were interested in our EMP Preparedness course. We help patriots prepare for unlikely but devastating events. And this time, It's even more personal than ever, because I know that if I don't prepare myself now, my family will be the first to suffer. You see, both my wife and I have chronic illnesses and need our medications to survive. Until now, I didn't know there was a way for us to live without them. But with the great healthcare reset in full swing, I knew I had to find a way. There was really no other choice. It was a do or die situation. Today, I have an answer to any health issue my family and I might face. In fact, in a few minutes, I'm going to share with you what you can use to prepare yourself against the top 3 drug shortages today too. I only discovered all this because when I realized the severity of this threat, I spent months holed up in my office researching this novel threat. And what I discovered shocked me to the core. See, every year the world's most influential world leaders fly down to a tiny Swiss mountain town called Davos in their private jets. This includes people like Biden, Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates, George Soros, and more. To do what, you ask? They come together to make decisions on your future. This is the annual Davos meeting. And sooner or later, everything they decide here turns into your reality. Because together, these people are even more powerful than any government. In fact, you may not realize it, but every major change starts from a deliberate plan at these secret meetings. This is how they're slowly gaining more and more control over our lives every day. Take the Second Amendment, for example. In 2016, they decided they wanted to take away your gun rights. And I don't have to tell you what has happened since. Every day you hear about a new regulation. Anyone who wants to buy a gun now has to go through a long and tiring background check and even take classes to prove they can handle a firearm. Not to mention how expensive it's gotten to buy guns, even if you somehow manage to jump through all the hoops. Or take the energy crisis we're facing today. For years, they've been pushing for a move to end global warming. And now we're facing the biggest energy crisis the world has ever seen. One look at the gas prices today tells you all you need to know. While the country struggles to pay for gas just to work, Exxon, Chevron, and Shell are reporting record profits. These are just 2 tiny examples that show you how every aspect of your life is controlled by them. But what they've been cooking up since their 2020 Davos meeting is scarier than anything you've ever seen before. They're calling it the Great Reset. You might have heard of their tagline. You will own nothing and you will be happy. America will no longer be the world's superpower. This threatens to completely change the American way of life. They want to take control of everything and leave you with no freedom. They're aiming for a world where there's no privacy, where they can track every single move anyone makes, including where people go, what they say, and even what medication they take. It's a world where no one truly owns anything. Everything has to be borrowed from global elites and puts money in their pockets. And this is just scratching the surface of what's about to come. The bottom line is this. The American way of life is about to change forever. And it's on you to be prepared, for the sake of yourself and your family. Now, I may not have answers for everything, but I do know this. The most dangerous change that we're dealing with because of this plan is what's happening in the healthcare system. You see, on May 25, 2022, at the latest Davos meeting, they went into detail about one particular decision that poses an urgent threat to the health and well-being of every American, including you and I. I'm talking about the Great Healthcare Reset. Take a look at this document. The CEO of Pfizer, the greatest pharmaceutical company in the world, announced that they're going to provide medications at cost to 1.2 billion people in 45 countries. And other pharma companies are going to be following suit. Now, this might sound like a worthy cause, but where is the money coming from? Who is footing the bill for 1.2 billion people? The simple answer is you. The price of medication is already skyrocketing, and the extra money you're paying is being used to cover the cost of drugs for other countries, including America's greatest enemies like the Taliban and even North Koreans. That means not only are you paying a ridiculous amount for healthcare, you're actually doing it for people who've never worked hard for it. What's even worse is, because pharma companies have no way to ramp up production quickly, they're going to be sending over your stock of medication to these countries, leaving Americans with no way to access the medication they need to survive. If this sounds eerily familiar, that's because it is. Let me remind you of another healthcare plan that was apparently for the good of the people, just like this one. I'm talking about Obamacare, where hundreds of thousands of tax-paying Americans like you are forced to foot the healthcare bill for people who never contributed anything. This plan follows the same footsteps, except it's no longer limited to just America. It's on a global scale for 45 countries and 1.2 billion people, including America's greatest enemies. This is the Great Healthcare Reset. Let's take a trip down memory lane and see what went down after Obamacare was signed. First, take a look at this chart. See the green line sharply going up in 2010? That shows you the average total drug shortages. And it's been going up since the same year Obamacare was signed. In fact, drug shortages actually tripled in just 3 years. This happened because supply couldn't keep up with the increased demand for drugs, resulting in thousands of hardworking Americans who actually paid their own way were left without the medication they needed to survive. That's not all that went wrong with Obamacare. Drug prices in the U.S. also rose 3 times faster than inflation over the last decade. That means more and more families are struggling to pay for medications that they need to survive, despite having insurance. Imagine not being able to afford your kids' insulin even after you've slogged away at work your entire life. That's what thousands of American families faced thanks to Obamacare. Now remember, with Obamacare, we were just footing the bill for a fraction of Americans, a total of 31 million people. But with a Great Healthcare Reset, we're talking about 1.2 billion people. That's 38 times as many people that need to be paid for out of your pocket. And the effects are going to be that much more catastrophic. I'm talking about a total collapse of the healthcare system as we know it. Now, at this point, you might be wondering why you haven't heard of the Great Healthcare Reset yet. How are they doing this? First, by telling you that the drug shortages you're experiencing are normal. They want you to blame regular supply chain issues or the lockdowns in China. They want you to believe that everything will go back to normal soon. But now that you've seen proof about the Great Healthcare Reset, remember, none of this is an accident. It's all part of a well-thought-out plan by global elites. The second thing they want you to believe is that they're doing this for the greater good. Pfizer's move is already being hailed as a wonderful, honest initiative by leftist media. But what the innocent left doesn't realize is, these global elites are only doing this to profit from your pain. You see, the pandemic opened their eyes to a whole new business opportunity. By sending vaccines and medication to poor countries and letting America foot the bill in the name of charity, both Pfizer and Moderna are minting $1,000 in profit every second. That means by the time you finish watching this presentation, they would have made another $4.8 billion. In fact, their businesses literally doubled in just 1 year after remaining stagnant for a decade. Now think about it. Why would they give up monstrous profits like these? They'd be absolutely insane to do that. That's why they're expanding this so-called initiative to include 45 countries and 1.2 billion people now. So, what does all this mean for you? Well, first of all, prices are going to skyrocket. This might mean that you can't afford the already exorbitantly priced medications, even if your life depends on it. In fact, you might have to pick and choose which medications you can afford to buy this month, and hope for the best. while other countries who haven't worked as hard can enjoy the fruits of your labor. And soon, you'll feel lucky if you can even find these medications in stock. In fact, you might be scrambling to pick them up first, no matter what price they're listed at. That's not all. Considering there's no way pharma companies can ramp up production so quickly, they're going to send a bulk of U.S. supply to other countries, which means you'll soon be left staring at empty shelves in your pharmacy, and no one's going to be there to help you. Now, if you're still not sure how urgent this threat is, think about the fact that life-saving medication is already in a major shortage. In fact, as you can see on this article by Fox News, the FDA just released a list of 111 drugs that are on the brink of disappearing. Cancer patients, in particular, are the worst hit right now. Thousands of Americans are having to give up on treatment because they can't find the drugs they need. And as you've just seen, things are only going to go downhill from here. What's worse is, if any other survival situation takes place, which is more than likely considering we're living in a time when war is normal, our economy is on the brink of collapse, and we're seeing a steep rise in the sheer number of natural disasters, we're going to be left completely helpless with no way to find the medication we need. Which brings us back to our research. What do you think is going to happen once our society discovers that medications are no longer around? Do you think they're going to sit quietly and wait for the government to take care of it? Of course not. We're talking about the same people who went crazy over toilet paper. It won't be a surprise to see pharmacies being looted and medication being sold illegally at 10 times the price as chaos unfolds across the nation. And the actual loss we're going to face because of this is something I don't even want to get into. As someone who relies on his daily medication just to survive, and has a family who trusts him to take care of them, I'd hate to be caught unprepared when this situation unfolds. So I went on a rampage to figure out a solution for the sake of myself and my family, but also for the hundreds of thousands of readers who count on us to help them prepare for survival scenarios. At first, I considered stockpiling the medication we rely on daily. But it's practically impossible to get enough supply of prescription meds that would last us through the great healthcare reset. Plus, I'd only be able to stockpile medication I know we need. What about emergencies? What if one of us catches a nasty bug or comes down with something new? There's no way I could gather enough medication to prepare for that. People also suggested I stock up on fish antibiotics. But the reality is, fish antibiotics are not made for human consumption. And I'd hate to deal with the consequences of using animal medication at a time where we can't access health care. Plus, there are a growing number of deadly bacteria that have become resistant to antibiotics. They're known as superbugs, and traditional medication has no solution for them. No amount of stockpiled antibiotics, fish or human, can help us against them. Fortunately, in a few minutes, you're going to see the only thing that's effective against these superbugs too. Now, as I was diving deeper and deeper into a rabbit hole trying to find a solution to the great healthcare reset, I made countless calls to my family and friends who are experts in the healthcare field. I spent weeks reading every research paper I could find. I even went to every health conference near me. But I didn't get the answers I was looking for anywhere. In fact, I'd almost given up on finding an answer to the critical prescription drug shortage. Around the same time, I was waking up with intense, throbbing migraines every single day, and no matter what I tried, the pain just wouldn't go away. I was at dinner at my sister's place one night when I was hit with a particularly bad one. I had to ask her if I could go lie down for a bit right in the middle of dinner. I felt so embarrassed about that. That's when my sister suggested that I go see a friend of hers, Dr. John Herzog, an osteopath. That didn't make any sense to me because I thought osteopaths only deal with bones and muscles. How would he know what to do about my strange, unexplained headaches? But because my sister was adamant, so I took her word for it and gave him a call. to my surprise, instead of prescribing a dose of painkillers like every other doctor, Dr. Herzog gave me a solution I'd never heard of. I decided to try it out, and I can't tell you how much better I felt. Within a few days, I was waking up fresh and excited every morning. I could research on my laptop for hours straight without so much as feeling a tinge of pain. Earlier, I had to limit my screen time to prevent flare-ups, and it was seriously affecting my work. Best of all, I was able to go out and be fully present with my family now that I wasn't in constant pain. The next time I saw Dr. Herzog, I asked him, "How did you know how to cure chronic migraines as an osteopath?" What he said next made me realize he wasn't just the right person to talk about all my health issues. He was also the right person to talk about the drug shortage. Dr. Herzog explained to me that I was surprised because I knew that most doctors are specialists. That means they're trained to deal with only a narrow set of issues. Take ophthalmologists, for example. They only treat eye conditions. Or dermatologists, who only treat skin issues. Osteopathic surgeons, on the other hand, are trained to deal with any health situation that might arise in an emergency. Whether that's contagious infections, deadly injuries, or even delivering babies. That means they don't just have to be a master of not just one area of health. They have to be a master of all of them. When he explained this to me, I realized that osteopathic surgeons are the only type of doctor we can rely on in a survival scenario. They're the only people who would have the answer, no matter what the situation is. And Dr. Herzog wasn't just any osteopath. He was a board-certified osteopathic surgeon. That's the highest level of accreditation given to anyone. I didn't realize it at the moment, but this one encounter was about to completely change my life. See, I was afraid of sharing my concerns around the great healthcare reset with anyone because I felt like they'd think I didn't have enough evidence. But when I showed Dr. Herzog the research I'd been doing on the great healthcare reset at my company, I was shocked to hear that he hadn't just been doing this research himself. He was already seeing the effects of the drug shortage at his practice. That's why he's been prescribing alternative solutions to his patients, just like he did for my migraines. What shocked me even more is the solutions he was prescribing weren't just effective for things like migraines. He was using it for everything from health issues like food poisoning and deadly infections to chronic problems like diabetes, arthritis, and even heart disease. I couldn't believe that I'd never heard about this before. So I had to ask Dr. Herzog how he learned all this. He told me it all started when he was 50. At the time, he was already suffering from a cocktail of health issues, including high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes. On top of that, he was also 50 pounds overweight. This means his days started and ended with taking his daily medication, one for each health issue. Missing just one dose could end up being life-threatening for him. And like that wasn't enough, one day he took a trip to a lake with his family, which changed the course of his entire life, because it ended with him being a patient in the same hospital he was supposed to be doing surgery in. See, while he was driving to the lake, he hit a moose with his car and ended up sustaining a head injury. Now, head injuries are notorious for causing deadly seizures, so the doctors had to put Dr. Herzog on anti-seizure medication. They could also see that this was a man who loved working and staying active, and finding himself in a helpless situation like this was taking a toll on his mental health. In fact, Dr. Herzog hadn't been sleeping at all since coming to the hospital. All this was only making his condition worse. So the doctors put him on sleeping pills and on antidepressants. On top of that, he was already taking medication for his chronic health issues, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes. That meant suddenly Dr. Herzog found himself on 6 different medications at 50 years old just to survive. He prided himself on being self-sufficient. And just the thought of being dependent on anything, even on medication, sent shivers down his spine. When he got out of the hospital, He made it his life's mission to get himself off these medications. See, what I didn't know about Dr. Herzog when I first met him is that we had a lot more in common than I realized. It turns out he spent the bulk of his free time preparing himself and his family for survival scenarios too. In fact, he even maintains his own stockpile of items that he believes he can trade for food for the rest of his life. But the one thing he knew he wouldn't be able to access in any survival scenario, no matter what he was ready to trade for it, was medication. That's why the last thing he wanted was to be dependent on them. So he dedicated his life to discovering alternatives to traditional medication. He read scientific studies on everything. He even tested them out himself. Today, he's living proof that his methods work, because at 63, he's healthier than he's ever been. He doesn't rely on a single medication, despite where he started from. In fact, Dr. Herzog is living a more active and fulfilling lifestyle today than he could ever imagine in his earlier years. He's even fit enough to be a windsurfer and a cyclist. When he finished telling me his story, I explained to him that I'd spent months looking for an answer to the upcoming drug shortages, and he was the only one that had it. I had to know how he went from taking 6 pills a day to taking none. That's why he revealed the only thing that has the power to save us all when the modern healthcare system collapses. The answer is survival home remedies. He used scientifically proven herbs, the same kind that grow in any average American backyard right now, to manage illnesses that previously required him to take a half dozen pills. Once he'd achieved this for himself, Dr. Herzog's next goal was to compile survival home remedies for the most common health issues. He knew we were headed for a total collapse of the healthcare system, and he wanted the world to be prepared to go back to our old way of doing things, surviving using home remedies. So he began compiling a list of scientifically proven herbal remedies. His criteria was simple. Number 1, the remedies must be proven to work. As a doctor himself, he was rigorous with his research. He wouldn't dare recommend anything that wasn't proven to work. In fact, he was stunned to see how many so-called plant healers recommended completely ineffective remedies. What's worse is, some of these remedies weren't just ineffective, they were also incredibly dangerous. Take comfrey, for example, which has a well-deserved reputation for healing injured tissues such as bruises, wounds, and inflammation. You might find comfrey being sold at your local coffee shops. But what most people don't know is comfrey comes with the risk of severe liver damage. This is just one example of how using remedies recommended from unreliable sources can seriously harm you. That's why when Dr. Herzog began collecting his remedies, he researched each of them thoroughly. There's nothing inside his collection that he wouldn't personally use. The second criteria Dr. Herzog had was that they must be useful in a long-term survival scenario. That means anyone can access them in a true survival situation, whether that's an economic collapse, another pandemic, or an EMP attack. See, there are books out there that recommend herbal remedies. The problem is, all their solutions are completely impractical. In fact, most of the herbs they recommended don't even grow here in America. They're ancient Chinese or Indian herbs that were native to their location. How's that supposed to help anyone? That's why Dr. Herzog focused on finding real practical solutions, some of which you might find growing in your backyard right now. Plus, he even compiled several options for each health issue. So if you're having trouble finding one, we have another 5 options to try out. Once he was done with his research, he compiled everything he found into a 400-page war chest of herbal remedies. This is the only collection of survival home remedies written by a doctor. And today, it's our only ammunition against the drug shortages. When I told Dr. Herzog this, he agreed to give me a copy. His only condition was that I share it with as many people as possible. See, this war chest of survival home remedies is his life's work. He spent a decade researching and testing everything inside. so he wanted to make sure that we used it to save as many lives as possible. Of course, I agreed, and he happily handed me a copy. And once I had a look inside, I was shocked. I found survival home remedies for the 20 most common health issues you'll have to deal with in a survival situation, including chronic issues like diabetes, blood pressure, and pain, illnesses like food poisoning or viral and bacterial infections, and even emergency situations like burns and wounds. The best part? It was all backed up by scientific studies. Let me show you some of what I found inside. I'm going to share proven herbal remedies you can use to fight the top 3 drug shortages right now, because there's no better way to prove to you that herbal remedies work than to show you. First, let's talk about how to manage pain in a crisis. On 8 out of 10 days, Americans face a shortage of painkillers. Remember, this is before the great healthcare reset has even gone into full swing. Once it does, the shortage is going to become impossible to manage. The thing with pain is, it takes over your entire life to a point where you can't even think about anything else. That's why it's essential to have a simple, practical, but most of all, scientifically backed way to manage pain without resorting to dangerous drugs or being at the mercy of your physician. I'm talking about bay laurel. Ancient Romans used it to treat a range of conditions, including paralysis, spasms, and sciatica. But today, numerous scientific studies back up bay laurel's healing effects. In fact, one study proved bay laurel oil's pain relief properties were comparable to that of morphine. That's because it has a powerful ingredient called eucalyptal, which is nature's best remedy for pain. The best part is, bay laurel is easily available across the U.S. In fact, you can buy a bay laurel plant from your local supermarket or nursery and start growing it in your backyard right now. All the instructions to grow the plant are included in Dr. Herzog's collection too. The easiest way to use bay laurel to manage pain is to make a bay laurel compress. First, simmer 20 to 30 bay leaves in 1 liter of water for 15 minutes. To make the compress, soak a small towel in the hot bay leaf water and squeeze out any excess water. Place the towel over the affected area on your skin and put a larger dry towel over top to hold in the heat. Then keep re-soaking and reapplying this compress for 30 minutes, and you'll be surprised to see how much better you feel. This is just one of the 20 scientifically proven herbal remedies in Dr. Herzog's war chest. Now that we have a way to manage pain, let's talk about the second biggest shortage our country is facing right now: drugs that can heal deadly infections. You don't want to be caught unprepared when you or a family member comes down with a nasty bug without a way to access antibiotics. That's why you'll love that a common kitchen ingredient can help you fight off bacterial infections. I'm talking about Nigella sativa, commonly called black cumin. This powerful remedy has been used for thousands of years through the Middle East and India. In ancient literature, it's even stated that Nigella is a remedy for all diseases except death. And now science has taken notice of this ancient heal-all. Several studies have confirmed that the active ingredient in Nigella sativa, a compound known as timaquinone, has powerful antibacterial properties. But what's even more interesting is Nigella sativa can even fight off bacteria that's resistant to antibiotics. While traditional medication is still desperately searching for a solution to antibiotic-resistant bacteria, people have been using this ancient remedy for years for exactly this purpose. One study found that Nigella sativa oil inhibited 97 different antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria that were tested. And you can easily find Nigella oil in your local supermarket like Costco or Walmart, or online on Amazon. Or you can follow this traditional method of making a Nigella sativa home remedy. A classic way of eating your daily Nigella seeds is to mix 1 teaspoon of ground seeds with 1 teaspoon of honey. Take this mixture twice a day, either plain or spread it on toast or a cracker. Simple enough, right? Now you have a solution for whenever you come down with an infection, but your pharmacy has run out of antibiotics. Alright, so far I've given away the pain remedy Dr. Herzog talks about. and I've given you a scientifically proven way to fight off infections. The last thing I'm going to share is what to do if you suffer from a health issue that plagues 47% of Americans today. I'm talking about high blood pressure. This is particularly important because the third biggest shortage we're facing right now is drugs that deal with high blood pressure. And if you struggle with this or have a family member who does, you might be aware that almost half of all heart attacks and strokes happen because of untreated high blood pressure. The good news is there's a scientifically backed herbal remedy that can help with this too. And you'll love this one. See, in 2006, the American Heart Association conducted a study called the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, or DASH, or DASH for short. In this study, they found that anyone with hypertension could consume flaxseed daily. That's because the alpha-linolenic acid and lignans present in flax seeds are beneficial in making sure your blood pressure does not surge up. Since then, over 25 studies have confirmed this. That means you don't have to worry about blood pressure medication going out of stock if you consume flaxseed daily. The recommended amount is 30 grams per day. And the best part is, you can consume it any way you want. It doesn't matter if you choose to sprinkle it in your cereal, turn it into a smoothie, or even bake it into a tasty treat. Make this a part of your daily routine, and you'll keep your blood pressure in check. With this, you now have scientifically proven remedies to use for the top 3 drug shortages we're facing today. That means when the great healthcare reset is in full effect, and pharmacies across the country only have empty shelves, you'll know exactly how to ensure your friends and family are protected from any health issues they may face. In fact, they're going to look up to you for knowing the exact remedy that can help them when they're desperately in need. But here's the thing. These are just answers to 3 of the biggest drug shortages we're facing today. The most dangerous shortages are ones that we don't even realize might affect us, because there's no way to predict our future health issues. Fortunately, Dr. Herzog's war chest of herbal remedies was written to protect you against any problem that comes your way. And because I promised him I'd share it with as many people as possible, we're publishing it as the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies. This is the only collection of scientifically proven survival home remedies written by a doctor. You'll want this war chest on your nightstand when the great healthcare reset causes a total collapse of our healthcare system. Because when you can't access medications, this will hand you everything you need to keep yourself and your family healthy. Whether that's in the face of chronic health issues, infections, or emergency situations. Here's just a glimpse of what you'll find inside. Did you know you can make antibiotics out of fruit? Create your own antibiotics at home to keep yourself and your family safe from bacterial and viral infections, even when your access to medication is cut off. You'll get step-by-step instructions inside your copy. That's not all. You can even make your own chloroform at home. Mixing these 2 ingredients will give you an anesthetic that's 4.5 times more powerful than what you get at a hospital. So the next time you find someone who needs emergency surgery but roads or hospitals are closed, you can use chloroform as an antiseptic to help them without causing any pain. You don't want to risk being caught in an emergency situation without this. The next one is for diabetes patients. Once you read this, you'll add this tasty ingredient to your coffee every day. Consuming just a small amount of this herb daily is shown to result in improved blood sugar, cholesterol, and triglyceride levels in people with type 2 diabetes. That's because the active ingredient inside helps make the cells less resistant to insulin. Discover what I'm talking about on page 111. Another thing you'll need to be prepared for in a survival scenario is emergency situations like burns. Fortunately, there's a traditional healer that is widely known as the burn plant. Whether you're dealing with a less intense burn at home, or you find yourself in a survival scenario like a terrorist attack, wildfire, or explosion, just apply the gel from this plant to find relief and kickstart the healing process. After that, you'll discover the secret of a special American community of 25 million people who live the longest. It has to do with a certain herb they consume that greatly slashes their risk of cancer. This powerful herb weakens cancer cells by naturally increasing what's called the body's ER stress response and helps this community enjoy long, healthy lives. They're not the only community to benefit from using little-known remedies. Did you know that Americans who used a little-known medical practice created by a man from a tiny Virginia town survived the Spanish flu in far greater numbers than those that were treated with standard medical practices? Discover exactly what made the difference between life and death for these people, and how you can use the same secret when you're faced with a viral infection. You'll even discover an herb commonly known as butterfly weed that helps you with countless health issues that come with an infection, including a cough, cold, flu, pneumonia, or bronchitis. And while we're talking about infections, there's one specific infection that's deadlier than breast cancer. In fact, it kills more people than both malaria and breast cancer already. And the terrible hygiene conditions in a survival scenario are only going to help it spread even faster. What's worse is, it's even resistant to all drugs. Fortunately, there's one special kitchen remedy that can help your body heal itself from this deadly infection, even when everything else fails. The next one is particularly important for preppers. Do you make this mistake while stockpiling survival food? This common storage mistake could cause you and your loved ones to suffer from a serious case of food poisoning at a time when help is not around. On page 143, you'll discover the common survival foods, 3 foods that you should never stockpile because they're notorious for causing food poisonings. And if you do end up with food poisoning, you'll be grateful to have this handy. This herb is better than activated charcoal at banishing food poisonings from canned food. Just add 1 spoon of this into a cup of boiling water to naturally fight your symptoms. Now, the last thing you want in a survival situation is to deal with issues like Alzheimer's that stop you from functioning at your peak at a time when your whole family is depending on you. Fortunately, a recent European study discovered that eating just 1.5 cups of this every day can be more effective at treating Alzheimer's and dementia than anything your doctor prescribes. We'll find out what it is on page 23. The same goes for physical health problems like arthritis. A survival scenario is no time to deal with that. That's why you'll want to look for this around grass. This plant is commonly mistaken for a weed, and no one knew it could help arthritis patients significantly relieve their pain until a landmark study in 2010. Next time you see it growing anywhere, test this out yourself by adding it to your salads, soups, or juices. You'll also be able to say goodbye to digestive issues with this one herb. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with acid reflux, gas, heartburn, or even constipation from IBS. The inner bark of this tree contains a substance called mucilage. When you mix this with water, it begins healing your gut to give you relief from your digestive issues. And no, I'm not talking about willow. I'm barely scratching the surface of everything you'll find in the doctor's book of survival home remedies. Remember, it's the only collection of survival home remedies written by a doctor. Once you have this on your shelf, you'll sleep soundly at night, knowing you and your family are safe. But wait, there's more. If you get Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies today, you'll also receive 3 exclusive reports that will be off the table soon. I'm adding these because I want to make sure you have absolutely everything you need to thrive, not just survive in any health scenario. We don't know what the future may hold for us. The only thing we can control is how we prepare for right now. The first free report you'll get is called Drugs That Kill, the Most Dangerous Pills in Your Cabinet. If you're taking any of these pills, you want to switch over to herbal alternatives right away. I honestly won't be surprised if you're already taking more than one on this list. Here's what they don't want you to know. Every pill in this report has serious side effects they hope you never hear about. And for each side effect, they simply prescribe you yet another equally dangerous pill. So you're stuck in a loop of taking medication and lining up their pockets practically forever. Take arthritis medication, for example. The most prescribed arthritis medication has been linked to serious side effects like heart failure and even cancer. Even cholesterol medications called statins, which are taken by over 35 million Americans, are known to cause kidney and liver issues. I'd hate to see you become a victim of additional health issues just because you took the pills your doctor prescribed you. That's why I want you to carefully examine this list. And once you know that a drug is bad for you, I recommend you immediately switch over to safer alternatives that you'll also get inside this report. Alright, so now that I know you'll be safe from dangerous pills, I'll also send you your at-home emergency room, the doctor's guide to surviving an emergency. It doesn't matter whether you're dealing with a blackout, a natural disaster, or you're just traveling through rural areas. Without the ability to access a hospital, the survival of your family is in your hands. That's where this report comes in. It's designed to help you successfully deal with situations that normally require an ER visit at the comfort of your own home. Here's a sneak peek of what you'll find inside. First, you'll get the secret to activating your body's natural healing response, even without doctors or medical equipment. You'll be using the only thing you always carry around with yourself. Next, you'll get the doctor's guide to dealing with broken bones, burns, skin infections, back pain, abdominal pain, cuts, and contusions. And finally, you'll even discover the 5 most common threats to your health in any survival scenario, and what you must do right now to prepare for them. And that's not all. You'll also get hidden healers, unexpected household items that can save your life. An emergency situation means you don't have time to do a supermarket run to find the right herbs. That's why this report gives you unexpected items hidden in your home right now that have the power of saving your life. Take superglue, for example, which can help you close up your wound if you don't like the idea of sewing yourself up. And yes, it's safe. Or credit cards. Did you know you can use them to remove a bee stinger without releasing more venom? Or to remove a splinter? Even your washroom essentials have a purpose. While toothpaste helps soothe burns, the high alcohol content in Listerine is effective in killing infections in any wound. With this report, you'll be prepared to deal with an emergency even if you're stuck inside your house. Like I said, you're going to get all 3 reports totally free of charge when you get the doctor's book of home remedies. You're probably wondering, how much is this going to cost me? Look, this war chest of herbal remedies is the only ammunition you can get against the drug shortage. No other doctor out there has dedicated over a decade of his life to researching scientifically proven herbal remedies. That means Dr. Herzog is the most qualified person to help you in a survival scenario. Now, you could personally consult with him when you face a health issue, but right now Dr. Herzog charges a starting rate of $350 per consultation, and he only has limited slots available. That's why he wants the doctor's book of herbal remedies to reach as many Americans as possible, so you can access all his knowledge on herbal remedies and treat your health issues at home, without paying a huge price tag in medical fees. This will be especially valuable when, on top of the great healthcare reset, we're also faced with another survival scenario, like a pandemic, an EMP, or anything else that makes it impossible for you to access a doctor. Considering Dr. Herzog's war chest of herbal remedies is your only saving grace against drug shortages, I can easily ask you for a 3-figure price tag. I'd probably make a pretty penny doing that. But as someone who has chronic health issues and a family to take care of, I understand how truly terrifying a future without medication is. That's why I'm going to give you this for just $67, which is an absolute steal when you consider that the average American spends $1,300 on prescription drugs every year. For a family of 4, that's $5,200 per year, and that number is only going to skyrocket once the drug shortage becomes critical and the prices surge. By using the herbal remedies from Dr. Herzog's war chest instead, you'll be saving thousands of dollars on prescription medication every single year, and you'll sleep soundly at night knowing you have everything you need to remain safe and healthy in any survival scenario. Despite this, when I told Dr. Herzog I'd be charging $67 for this, he actually convinced me to drop the price down even further. That's because he wants to make sure this information is affordable for everyone. He doesn't want the price to stand in the way. That's why today on this page, you can get the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies for just $37. That's less than you'd spend on a trip to the movies with your family. At this price, Dr. Herzog's war chest of herbal remedies will literally pay for itself the very first time you choose to use a survival home remedy instead of paying for medication. And remember, along with the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies, you'll also get bonus number 1, Drugs That Kill, the most dangerous pills in your cabinet. Bonus number 2, your at-home emergency room, the doctor's guide to surviving an emergency. Bonus number 3, hidden healers, unexpected household items that can save your life. Each of these reports is worth at least $29 individually. Take a look at what some of our customers have to say about Dr. Herzog's collection. Fred Paul says, "My copy is a great book for people that look for ways to survive and take care of me and my family. Many people believe things will be great, but I'm worried about my family and kids and grandkids. This book helps with information that will help keep us alive and healthy. I have been truly excited since receiving this book. I was a medic in the military and want to try to stay on top of these kinds of things. Thank you for the coverage of topics in this book and the broad spectrum of information." Jacqueline Lee says, "I liked your book very much. I went through it to see if it would be helpful if the SHTF and decided it would be very helpful. It now resides with my favorite books on the subject." Stephanie Street says, "I have received the book. Love it. I share info with my family and coworkers almost daily. Thank you so much." C. Lubecker says, "I have many books on home remedies, also herb books as well, and the most common problem is not supplying current information. Most just copy older copies who copy even older copies. Your information seemed more up-to-date and relevant. What I like is to pick up the book, find the topic, and read the information. Your book gives me everything I'm looking for. Now, I also want you to have access to this treasure of survival home remedies as soon as possible. Considering Pfizer's announcement was made on May 25th, 2022, and that the Great Healthcare Reset is already in motion, I don't know when these shortages are going to get critical. It might happen today. It might happen tomorrow, or it might already be happening by the time you see this page. That's why I don't want you to wait until you're personally affected by the greed of global elites. I want you to have access to this as soon as possible. When you place your order, you'll be sent a digital version straight to your inbox immediately. But here's the thing. The purpose of compiling all the remedies in one place was to make it easy to refer back to. In fact, if you look at the index, you'll be able to quickly find the health condition you're interested in and which page to find an answer to. You'll even find a list of all the uses of each home remedy. But digging up a digital version can sometimes be a pain, especially in a situation where time is of the essence. So that's why I want you to have a physical copy on your nightstand too, so you can quickly pick it up and use the index to guide you to what you need at that moment. So here's the deal. For people who are in a hurry and want the information now and are confident they'll be able to refer to the digital version with ease, we sell a $37 digital-only version of the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies. For those who want it in print and can wait for up to a week for delivery, we add an extra $8.99 for shipping and handling. But today, I want you to get both the physical and the digital, and you only pay for the printed version. That way, you can start reading immediately and still have a hard copy for reference in your library. All you have to do is click the button under Physical plus Digital Version, and you'll be redirected to a checkout page. And the price doesn't even matter because you're covered by our 60-day ironclad money-back guarantee. Here's the deal. This war chest of herbal remedies wasn't written by a so-called plant healer. It was written by a real doctor who has personally used these survival home remedies to help thousands of patients. And to go from taking 6 pills a day himself to taking none. Everything inside it truly works and is backed up by scientific proof. That's why we're more than happy to put our money where our mouth is by offering you an ironclad 60-day money-back guarantee. I don't want you to take my word that this works. I want you to try out what Dr. Herzog recommends yourself and see the results. If you find that these survival home remedies don't work for you, if you think it's not worth 10 times what you paid, just send the physical copy back and we'll reverse the transaction instantly, so you'll get every penny back. Plus, you can even keep the digital download as a thank you for giving this a shot, even if you want your money back. As you can see, the risk is totally on us. All you have to do is click on the option that works best for you below. Fill out the order form, and you'll receive a copy of the Doctor's Book of Herbal Home Remedies immediately. Remember, now is the time to make a decision that will impact yours and your family's future health. Today I've shown you that the great healthcare reset is already underway, and as much as we'd like to, there's nothing we can do to stop it. That means life-saving medications you're currently relying on are going to disappear from your pharmacy, all in the name of charity. I've also shown why you can't rely on stockpiling medication because it simply won't last you through the crisis, nor can you predict which medications you'll need. Finally, I've shown why Dr. Herzog's War Chest is the most reliable source of herbal remedies out there. Not only are most other resources completely impractical, they're also not researched by a doctor. That means there's no proof that any of these home remedies work. That's what makes the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies your only ammunition against the drug shortage crisis. Now, the question is, will you be prepared when the modern medical system comes crashing down? The way I see it, you have 3 options. Your first option is to do nothing today and hope the government somehow bails you out. Because their track record has been so great, right? This option may sound like the easier choice now, but it's one you'll likely regret when your pharmacy tells you it's out of stock in the medication you need. Your second option is to try to find all this information yourself. Not only is this going to take you hundreds of hours of work, it's also going to be nearly impossible to find the right combination of home remedies. That's because most home remedies recommended online aren't just ineffective, they can also be dangerous if used incorrectly. And your final option is to take back control of your health today. By taking a small step today, you'll safeguard the health of yourself and your family for the coming days. You'll no longer be at the mercy of big pharma, global elites, or even the government. Instead, you'll take control of your health back into your own hands using survival home remedies that are scientifically proven to work. The choice is yours. Will you be prepared, or will you stand back and do nothing? I'd hate to see you caught unprepared when the great healthcare reset personally affects your health. That's why I urge you to click the button below and order your copy of the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies today. After all, it is the only collection of scientifically proven herbal remedies written by a doctor. And like I said at the beginning of this presentation, this page exposes the kind of secrets that powerful corporations spend millions of dollars to hide. That's why I have reason to believe this page may be taken down at any time now, and it may not be around the next time you try to access it. I don't want you to take that chance, because the great healthcare reset is already underway, and the drug shortages could become critical in your location as early as tomorrow. When that happens, I want you and your family's health to be in safe hands. This is why getting the Doctor's Book of Survival Home Remedies might just be the most important investment you make this year. Remember, we'll also send you 3 free reports. Bonus number 1, drugs that kill, the most dangerous pills in your cabinet. Bonus number 2, your at-home emergency room, the doctor's guide to surviving an emergency. And bonus number 3, hidden healers, unexpected household items that can save your life. So I urge you to click the Add to Cart button now and thank yourself later for making one of the best decisions in your lifetime. Remember, you risk nothing. You're backed by our 60-day, no questions asked guarantee.